The question is, do you see the bias there, how now that heroin is being taken care of because it affects a certain part of the community and not necessarily happening in the community of color?
Okay, and very often that question, if I may add to that, is put that in black communities, kids who are doing drugs are arrested. This is a pattern that is reported. It's not me asserting this. And in white communities during the heroin epidemic in the upper Midwest and other suburban communities, that white kids with heroin problems are offered help. That's society's solution, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Sure. Let me try to answer that. Thank you for the question. So now I am going to harken back to my vast knowledge of police work, and I was a warrior on the crack wars. I started police work in the late '80s, and here was the driving force, though. It was violence. So nobody cares if some chubby guy with long hair is smoking weed and watching cartoons and eating Twinkies in his apartment. That's not a public safety issue. His parents aren't happy, but he's not causing violence in the community. When I worked in narcotics, primarily focused on crack because that's what we were dealing with, it wasn't the idea that people were smoking crack and ruining their lives. It was the violence that was attendant, and we were responding directly to the outcry from the community. Get the dope dealers off the streets, stop the drive-by shootings, make our neighborhood safe again.
All right, can I take it to, all right, go ahead, Gloria. What I heard your opponent say is it's not evidence of a double standard, it's evidence of a response to the violence associated with the drug usage. And that's a powerful argument.
And that fits into the issue of the system and how you have the racial system, the bias in the system, in that you have different policies for different people. So when it's crack cocaine, you have a policy of arrest. When it's powder cocaine, you have a policy of counseling. And at this point, we're dealing with a heroin epidemic. And it's now gotten so bad, that it's made the news, the New York Times articles, et cetera. Let me just point to one thing. Here's where the violence comes in. You have to feed that $100, $200, $300 a day habit. So you have breaking and entering, you have burglaries. And that's why I said when we talk about crime, why is it that you only look at certain crimes? You're not looking at these types of crimes. You're not looking at the fact that crystal meth is an epidemic in rural communities, mostly white people, but you don't hear that much about it. Suburban communities, wealthy communities are dealing with this, and they're saying counseling. Now they're saying don't even arrest these people. As far as I know, possession of heroin is a crime, and yet counseling, not criminality, is the point when those people are being arrested.
Heather McDonald.
Well, the New York Times actually did a study this summer and found that if you're arrested as a dealer in a rural county, a white rural county, in the U.S., you have a 50% greater chance of getting sentenced to prison than if you're in a big urban jurisdiction. The reason that we had the attempt for the federal government to look at crack was the Congressional Black Caucus was saying this is a crisis. Alton Walden of Queens in 1986 said this is the worst self-inflicted oppression that we've experienced since slavery. This is destroying our community. The meth penalties, we've all heard about the infamous 100-to-1 disparity between powder cocaine and crack cocaine, and a certain amount of crack would yield you a 5 to 10 year mandatory sentence. Exact same penalty structure for meth. That's what we never hear about. Meth federal trafficking defendants are about 57, 58% white and 2% black. So if the crack penalties were anti-black, then the meth penalties are anti-white. And they were absolutely identical now.